Hi, passionate Rangers FC fans. Welcome to Rangers Update, your dedicated source for all things Rangers. Before we dive in, we want to express our gratitude for your unwavering support. If you bleed blue, don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button, and let's strengthen our community. Now, let's get into the latest updates. A hearty welcome to our new followers. Your backing means the world to us. WATP, let's get to the news. The rumor mill round Ibrox has been whirring louder than a gale sweeping across the Clyde, and supporters are beginning to whisper something they never imagined they would say out loud. Could the long era of James Tavernier be edging toward a strange, quiet ending? Word drifting through corridors, fan forums, and late-night radio chatter suggests that new gaffer Danny Röhl may have accepted an internal proposal that could reshape the dressing room in dramatic fashion. Nobody at the club is speaking plainly, of course, yet the tone of the speculation feels different this time. Tavernier has been more than just a right back for Rangers. He has been a symbol of leadership, resilience, and relentless attacking football from deep positions. For years, he carried the captain's armband with authority, delivering moments that etched his name into club folklore. That is precisely why the suggestion of a departure feels almost surreal. Some voices close to the club murmur that Röhl is quietly pushing for a tactical rebuild, one that demands a new defensive structure and perhaps a different type of captain on the pitch. If that whisper proves true, it could mark the beginning of one of the most emotionally complex transitions the Rangers' support has faced in recent memory. Inside the training ground, according to bits of gossip slipping out from staff and observers, the atmosphere has subtly shifted since Röhl took charge. The German manager arrived with a reputation for detail, modern systems, and a ruthless eye for long-term squad balance. Those who claim to have watched recent sessions say he has been experimenting with defensive shapes that rely less on an ultra-attacking fullback and more on controlled positional rotations. For a player like Tavernier, whose identity has been built on bombing forward and delivering from wide areas, such a tactical shift might quietly reduce his central importance. It does not mean the captain suddenly lacks quality. Far from it. Yet football evolves quickly, and managers often arrive with ideas that do not perfectly match the legends they inherit. One particularly persistent rumor suggests that Röhl recently held a long private meeting with senior figures behind the scenes, discussing the possibility of refreshing the leadership structure before the next major phase of the project. In that conversation, so the whispers claim, Tavernier's name surfaced not as a problem, but as a question. Can a club icon remain the cornerstone of a side being rebuilt from the inside out? Supporters, naturally, are split between disbelief and curiosity. In pubs around Glasgow and across supporters groups online, the debate has become almost philosophical. Some fans argue that legends deserve the right to finish their journey on their own terms, particularly someone who delivered so many attacking contributions from a defensive role and led the club through moments of triumph and pressure. Others take a colder, more pragmatic stance, suggesting that every great Rangers side eventually refreshes its core. They point to the brutal rhythm of top-level football, where sentiment rarely guides decisions for long. What fuels the speculation further is the sense that Tavernier himself may be aware that the ground beneath him is shifting slightly. A few observers have noticed subtle signs. Longer conversations with staff after training, reflective body language during warm-ups, and the sort of quiet focus that often appears when experienced players know their future is uncertain. None of it proves anything, yet football fans are masters at reading small details and turning them into stories that ripple across the entire support. Another layer of intrigue surrounds Danny Röhl himself. Though relatively young in managerial terms, he carries a reputation for bold thinking. People who followed his earlier coaching work often describe him as someone unafraid to challenge established hierarchies if he believes the collective structure demands it. That reputation alone has intensified the rumors. If there were ever a manager willing to make a controversial call involving a club legend, many believe Röhl might be that figure. At the same time, there are whispers that he deeply respects what Tavernier represents and has no desire to publicly push a hero out the door. The delicate balance between respect and renewal could explain why the situation feels wrapped in silence rather than clear statements. Some insiders even claim the manager has spoken privately about protecting the dressing room from emotional shock while still steering the squad toward his long-term vision. If those murmurs carry even a grain of truth, the coming months could see careful decisions unfolding behind closed doors rather than dramatic announcements. What makes the speculation even more gripping is the suggestion that interest from elsewhere might quietly exist. A few voices in football circles hint that clubs outside Scotland could view Tavernier's experience and leadership as extremely valuable, particularly for teams seeking a seasoned presence in the backline. These whispers do not mention concrete negotiations, but they paint a picture of a player who might still command respect across different leagues. If such a tension truly exists, it would give Rangers a complicated choice. Allowing a long-serving captain to leave voluntarily could soften the emotional impact of a transition that might otherwise feel harsh. On the other hand, losing such a figure without a clear successor prepared in advance could unsettle the dressing room. Fans understand that balancing loyalty and progress is one of the most delicate tasks any club faces, and that tension now seems to hover quietly around the corridors of Ibrox. Perhaps the most haunting part of the rumor is the phrase that has begun appearing more often among supporters: leaving through the back door. Nobody wants to imagine Tavernier exiting in a way that feels understated or abrupt. His years at Rangers were filled with passion, pressure, and responsibility, and many believe a proper farewell would be the only fitting conclusion. Yet football history is full of legends whose departures happened quietly, almost awkwardly, once a new era began forming around them. The possibility that Röhl might already be steering the club towards such an era has turned simple speculation into a full-blown narrative. Whether the whispers prove accurate or fade into the background remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. Around Rangers just now, the idea that the Tavernier chapter could be nearing its final pages no longer feels impossible. It feels like a story waiting to reveal its next twist. If the whispers swirling around Ibrox continue to gather strength, the coming period could become one of the most emotionally charged transitions the club has faced in years. James Tavernier has not merely been a regular starter. He has been the face of leadership during an era that carried both expectation and scrutiny. When supporters speak about commitment, they often point straight to the captain's relentless style, charging down the right flank and delivering crosses that lifted the crowd from their seats. Because of that history, the mere suggestion that Danny Röhl might be preparing a future that gradually moves beyond him feels like a shockwave moving through the Rangers community. Still, football has always lived in the space between loyalty and evolution. Managers arrive with philosophies, boards seek progress, and squads must adapt. If Röhl truly believes that a subtle shift in the team's tactical identity is necessary, then even the most iconic players can find themselves standing at a crossroads. The story unfolding in whispers right now is not about blaming Tavernier or questioning his legacy. Instead, it revolves around whether a new footballing blueprint might slowly be pushing the club toward a different kind of leadership on the pitch. Some observers believe the situation might not explode into drama, but instead develop gradually, almost quietly. Rather than a sudden announcement or public dispute, the theory circulating among insiders suggests a slow repositioning within the squad. Tavernier might still feature, still contribute, but perhaps no longer as the central pillar around which everything is built. That kind of transition can be subtle yet powerful. Younger players begin to assume more responsibility, tactical roles shift, and leadership spreads across several voices rather than resting on a single captain. Danny Röhl, according to those who claim to understand his coaching mindset, prefers structured evolution rather than chaotic change. If that interpretation holds weight, the manager could be guiding Rangers through a delicate balancing act, honoring the past while quietly shaping the next chapter. Such an approach would explain why official statements remain absent and why speculation thrives instead. In football, silence often becomes the canvas upon which rumors paint their boldest pictures. Within the dressing room itself, the emotional dimension of this story could be immense. Veteran players often form deep bonds with captains who have carried the responsibility for so long. Tavernier's voice has echoed through countless team talks, tense halftime moments, and celebrations that bonded the squad together. Imagining Rangers without that familiar presence would naturally raise questions about who might step forward to fill the leadership vacuum. Some names occasionally appear in supporter discussions, yet none carry the same history or symbolic weight. That uncertainty adds another layer to the speculation surrounding Röhl's thinking. If the manager is indeed contemplating a future without his longtime captain at the center of the project, he must also be considering how to cultivate new leaders capable of guiding the squad through pressure. Leadership in football cannot simply be assigned like a shirt number. It grows through trust, personality, and time. That reality makes the rumored shift feel even more dramatic. There is also the personal side of the story, the part that supporters rarely see clearly but often sense instinctively. For a player like Tavernier, whose career became deeply intertwined with Rangers, any conversation about change would likely carry enormous emotional weight. Years of commitment create bonds that stretch beyond contracts and tactics. Some fans wonder whether he might already be reflecting on the possibility of a final adventure elsewhere, a chapter where his experience could still shine while allowing Rangers to step into a new era. Others firmly believe he will fight to remain central to the team, determined to prove that his influence has not faded. Both possibilities circulate through the rumor network, each gaining strength depending on who is telling the story. In truth, only a small circle inside the club probably knows how those private discussions truly sound. Meanwhile, Danny Röhl continues to project calm determination in public appearances, offering little that confirms or denies the swirling talk. That composure has, ironically, made the rumors even louder. When managers refuse to fuel speculation, fans often interpret the silence as hidden strategy. Some supporters admire the idea that Röhl might be brave enough to make difficult calls if he believes they will strengthen the team. Others worry that moving on from such a significant figure could fracture the emotional connection between the squad and the terraces. Rangers supporters cherish loyalty, and Tavernier's long service embodies that spirit. The manager therefore stands in a delicate position, balancing strategic vision with the powerful traditions that shape the club's identity. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. As the whispers continue drifting through the city and across the wider football world, one lingering question refuses to fade. If this truly is the beginning of the end for the Tavernier era at Rangers, how will the story close? Will it be a respectful transition guided quietly by Danny Röhl, allowing the captain to depart with dignity and gratitude? Or will the tension between past glory and future ambition create a more uncomfortable farewell than anyone expects? For now, there are only rumors, fragments of conversations, and the restless imagination of supporters who sense that something significant may be unfolding behind the scenes. Whatever the truth becomes, the idea alone has already reshaped the narrative around Rangers. A club legend possibly stepping away, a new manager reshaping the blueprint, and a fan base watching closely for the moment when speculation finally turns into reality. The longer the speculation lingers, the more it begins to feel like a slow-moving storm gathering beyond the horizon. Around Rangers, supporters have seen enough football cycles to recognize the signs when a club may be approaching one of those turning points that redefine a squad. James Tavernier's name has been woven so tightly into the modern identity of the side that imagining Rangers without him still feels strange, almost unnatural. Yet whispers continue to drift from training ground chatter to supporter debates, suggesting Danny Röhl might already be mapping a future that gradually steps beyond the captain's era. If that truly is the direction forming behind closed doors, it would represent more than just a squad decision. It would mark the symbolic end of a leadership period that shaped countless matches, dressing room speeches, and moments of pressure where Tavernier stood as the visible face of responsibility. That is why the rumor refuses to fade. People sense that even if nothing dramatic happens immediately, the conversation itself reveals that Rangers may be quietly approaching the edge of a generational shift. For many supporters, the most difficult part of the speculation is not the idea of change, but the possibility that such a legendary chapter could close without the grand farewell it deserves. Tavernier's journey at Rangers was never ordinary. He arrived with ambition, grew into the captaincy, and became one of the most productive attacking defenders the club has seen in modern times. Because of that history, fans naturally imagine a farewell filled with applause, banners, and recognition from the stands. The rumor that he could slip away quietly, almost like a background transition during a rebuild, creates a bittersweet feeling across the support. Some voices insist the club would never allow such an understated ending for a figure who carried the armband for so long. Others fear that football's relentless pace rarely waits for perfect endings. If Danny Röhl truly believes the next phase of the team demands a different structure, sentiment might not be the deciding factor. That harsh truth is what makes the story feel both fascinating and slightly painful at the same time. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.